love the stupid stoner shit and watching a dumbass comedy, lately I've been trying to pay a little bit of attention to the politics. Just because I want to make sure that in the future I still can sit here and smoke a blunt and watch some fucking comedy. And not have to be sitting here, you know, drinking government mandated, you know, liquor and watching, you know, 2 channels that they allow me to watch. You know, I want to make sure there's certain things still out there.
Yeah, definitely. Like keeping the internet, you know?
Exactly, like the internet, bro, and not being censored on it.
Yeah, or those like the rebellions in the Middle East, and then the government just shut off the internet because they didn't want the protesters to organize, and then immediately after that, they went on WeChat on their phones. It's like,
remember the Hong Kong protests?
Yeah.
And some dude, they made an app so that like protesters could know where police were, so that they could like, you know, peacefully protest like and stay away from the police that were like beating them up.
Yeah.
And the government went to the person and pretty much was like, yeah, they went to iPhone and was like, yeah, fuck that app. And they took that app off every phone in Hong Kong so no one could use it.
Come on. When you give away all your guns.
That's what we want to make sure doesn't happen here, where our government can just do whatever they want and like take shit away that we're trying to use to protect ourselves.
Okay.
Like a gun.
Okay, I get that. But then
there's actually like a whole subgroup called like what you're talking about. It's called anarchy. There's like on Reddit, they have like an anarchy page, and it's like I looked on it and I was like, it's pretty crazy. It's like everything that you say and like more different topics and such like that, and just how, you know, you're an anarchist because you just don't like the establishment or the way things are or such, you know.
Yeah, I don't like how the establishment at the moment is executing what it's supposed to do. You know, like it's supposed to run a certain way, but it doesn't anymore.
You're just gonna point that out, yeah. You don't want to be just
no one's saying we're trying to burn down America and fucking have
no. You just don't like
things that need to be addressed and changed, you know, and fixed how they're supposed to run, because shit's a little fucked up right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, our government was based on the history of a tyrannical government, and then we rebelled. And the funny thing is that we make our own government and we can't rebel. It's like, what's the point?
No, we make our own government that is slowly starting to try to acquire more and more power over us so that we can't. That's why I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment. Like, I am so against everybody that's going after guns right now. You know, like, I understand that there's a certain amount of overwatch that should be given to gun laws. And, you know, like, I live in New York. Like, there's more gun laws in New York than there are in the rest of the fucking country. All right?
For good reasons, too.
And for good reason. Like, look at that shit that happened in Georgia. All right? You got a black guy that was just jogging. He woke up and was like, I want to go for a run, and went for a run in a free America, right? And 2 white guys saw him and were like, hey, that looks like the guy that's been robbing houses. They didn't see him robbing a house. They didn't see him doing anything. They just saw him running. And then they get their guns out and they follow him down and they stop him, pull up in front of him, hop out of their car with guns, you know? And what does he do? He tries to protect himself from these 2 redneck-looking guys that just jumped out of nowhere with guns. So he's fighting for his life, and he gets shot to death. Imagine if he had his gun with him. You know, imagine if he had his handgun. Like, there's plenty of gun owners that don't go running or jogging or to the store without their legally permitted carry. So that if some fucking crazy people jump out with them on a gun to accuse them of something that they didn't do, at least they can protect themselves. Because if that guy had a gun and he shot those guys, he could still be alive.
But as far as the Second Amendment, though, that's right. It's to bear arms against the tyrannical government. That's not tyrannical government. That's some other motherfucker with a gun, right? If our gun laws didn't allow us to have guns,
that's the biggest.
Those motherfuckers would be less likely to have those guns.
But that's the biggest argument that people give when they say, "Oh, the only reason you need guns is self-defense." Now, it's not. The reason that you need it is to fight your government. But the second reason for it is self-defense.
Our government has drones.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna pull out the most high caliber gun I have, the government's gonna fuck my ass up with a drone if they need to.
So does knowing that the other guy has a bigger stick mean that you should put down your little stick? No.
But it's not the other guy. It's the government, right?
But if the government is not looking out for you and they become your enemy in that situation where you have to have a militia versus them, they are the other.
Then the law doesn't matter at that point, right? And whatever gun I would have acquired as far as recreational purpose would not be something that would take out drones, right? Nobody's just gonna buy an RPG. I'm sorry, not people do, but like the average person's not gonna buy an RPG to fight the government.
Bro, do you think that if the government were to try to take over here in the United States, where the land that they're going to own after taking us over, do you think they're gonna drop drones and blow the shit up that they're about to take over? No. Especially when they have a military that they can just send house to house to the people they know have guns and just take those guns away. So should that guy just be laying down his gun?
Having the gun gonna benefit that person?
Because it's not just him against a bunch of them. It's all of the American people that bear arms and then come together to fight that government that's coming for them. Okay? People always think it's gonna be one guy versus a drone. No. It's going to be all those guys down south that showed up to protest with their guns. And they're just the ones that showed up that day. You know, there's tons and tons of people in America that would show up to fight against a tyrannical government that were coming to oppress their rights. It's not just going to be one dude, bro. Like, there is definitely a number of people that would come together to fight. And if they have guns, they have a better chance than if they don't.
I don't see how gun laws have anything to do with that.
Because if you look at the trend of where gun laws are going, they want everyone to register every gun they have so that the government knows where every gun is. And everybody looks at that as like, that's fine. Everybody's like, they should, that's fine. But if you look in history, and everybody's told history repeats itself, that's a fact. Every government that has done this has then gone to the next step and confiscated those guns.
But let's look at more recent history. How many killings by guns in public areas have been done within recent history? Hundreds. More.
And how many of those, two questions here. How many of those are actually the guns that they're trying to say that they're going after? Okay, because they're trying to say that they're weapons of war that they're going after, AR-15s and whatnot, okay? But the majority of killings by guns in the United States, if you look at the numbers, handguns kill way more people
than shootings.
Those.
You're right. Handguns, yeah, more people. But I'm talking about mass shootings. Mass shootings are not done with handguns.
So now you're talking about just the mass shootings. So if we're looking at just one clump of one person.
Those are the hundreds. Those are the hundreds I'm referring to, right? Not the everyday handgun shootings.
Not the everyday over the year where it ends up being in the hundreds of thousands.
Right.
Where if you were really worried about the problem of people being hurt by guns, you would go for the actual problem, right? Handguns, they kill way more people. But that one mass shooting where people can build a narrative around it is where they try to really go after it. And I agree that, yeah, that person that was going to try to kill all those people in that one time, their access to a gun, yeah, it made it a little easier for them. But I don't think that not having the gun would have stopped that person from attempting to kill a ton of people anyway. They could have got a car. They could have made a homemade chemistry bomb. They could have done a ton of things. And if they're dedicated to hurting people, they're going to hurt people in some way. To take away everyone's guns because one bad apple does something is a little bit extreme.
One bad apple. It's hundreds, and that's only in the mass shooting sector, right? We're not talking about death by handgun added to that. What happened?
I said they're always one at a time.
So they want to take away guns. Look at countries like the UK or in Europe, where guns are nobody owns guns there, right?
So stabbings up.
Everyone's safe, right? No, there's mass stabbings. There's cars that are used to just driving. 30 or 40 people got killed like last month or 2 months ago when that dude just drove into a fucking courtyard and started driving people over.
How many times does that happen?
Over there, very frequently, as mass shootings here.
Hundreds of times?
Yes, bro. Yes. Yes, bro.
Should we fact check this right now?
People are dedicated to killing people. They're gonna find a way. So when we look at it here, yes, I agree. It's bad when it happens, but on the grand scheme, when you look at the full picture, like it's not the gun that killed those people. That person was gonna do it. And if anything, in the situations where another person has a gun for their own protection, and legally has it and are there in situations like that, there are plenty of scenarios where there could have been a mass shooting, but it was stopped because another citizen stopped them with their own legal gun. But you don't ever hear about those scenarios because they don't want to glorify anything like that.
Right.
You know?
Vigilantes here.
Well, that's what happened with the Ahmad guy. He just got gunned down by people that thought they were doing right.
Right, you got two guys that thought that they could do a citizen's arrest. They thought they were right, and they killed a man.
For real.
But had that
with
man,
no facts.
But had that man had his now look at this. If you look at the real numbers, if people want to use certain examples, the gun laws that they're proposing would not have stopped that, because the guns that they had are not the guns that they're going after. They had a shotgun. That gun would not have been changed in any way with the gun laws they're proposing. So the things that they're proposing are not actually going to change anything. The only thing that they're going to change is that they're going to know where all the guns are. So that the laws that they propose aren't backed by numbers for the safety aspect. They don't actually make anyone safer, because when you go into the specific cases, the guns that are used in the majority of them would have still been legally sold without any kind of background checks from Kmart.
But here's one thing I actually do find interesting. A lot of these mass shootings, from what I've heard, these people are acquiring and accumulating a certain amount of guns. If they were to actually track how many guns these people had, it would certainly lead to like, oh hey, this person has an excessive amount of weaponry. Let's keep an eye on this person.
So then, if someone has so should there be a limit on how much someone should be able to own?
No, I don't think so.
As far as guns and ammo, should there be a limit as far as how much a citizen should be able to own?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't think so, because then that's a limiting on your rights. It's like, oh, like, how many cars do we have? You know, it's like, oh, you got
dude. Why do you need killing machines? Why do you need so many killing machines?
You just said it 10 minutes ago, because the government has drones. So if they have a stockpile of stuff that we can't even mess with, then now we're supposed to be limited on the smaller rock that we should be able to have? Absolutely not. The right is there to protect yourself from that government, and then they're going to tell you how much you can have.
It's not being used to protect yourself from the government. It's being used where people...
At the moment. But that's the thing. If you take that ability away, then the government can just all of a sudden change every law they want. The only reason they don't is because right now we can fight back. You take that ability away, and tomorrow you can wake up and not know where you are, because everything is different.
Oh, hold on. Well, you had mentioned earlier that if someone's dedicated to doing something, they can build some sort of a bomb, chemical warfare. People can still do that. There are plenty of chemists out there that don't need a gun in order to create something.
That's true. I mean, Tycoons, the Unabomber.
So if the government
is powerful as a gun, but you can still fuck some shit up with a 3D printed weapon.
So if the government were to take over tomorrow and we didn't have our guns, you'd rather have, instead of an AK-47 or an AR-15 to fight against the government, you'd rather have a key food bag with gasoline and a lighter, or a makeshift freaking slingshot?
I'm gonna fight against the government with a gun. That is me knowing I'm going to die, because the government is so much greater than my efforts of trying to shoot people down with a gun.
So wait, let me ask you a question right now. Do you think that if the government, our government, were to turn around and become tyrannical tomorrow, do you think that we couldn't overthrow them?
Turn tyrannical tomorrow? That is a very general question.
Say like tomorrow, next year. No,
there's a lot of layers to that. You know, think of like a lot of people in the military who sign up for the military for the right reasons, who have access to weapons, who are not going to take that order.
Exactly. So that's what I'm asking. Tomorrow, next year, if we had to overthrow our government, do you think that it's not even worth it because we can't win? Because you have to at least be in a situation where we have to know that we have a chance.
Having a gun to kill people, because I'm not going to fucking get anything done. I'm probably going to kill a couple people and then I'll get killed.
That's usually what happens.
I'd rather...
So it's one of those things like, do I go out fighting, or do I say, hey, there's a better approach to this that I really need to consider?
What's the better approach? Becoming a slave to a tyrannical government? Absolutely not. I'd rather die fighting to stop that. And that's the American.
Making it black and white. You're making it black and white as opposed to really understanding that there is so much more to it.
There's a lot to it, but at the end of the day, there's black and white when it comes to free country America, which is what this country was founded on, and a not free country where our rights are oppressed and we,
which is what we live in now. To a certain
almost, it's where we're starting to get to, which is why I'm very aware of what's going on, because I don't want to wake up tomorrow and have to fight against our government, but we may have to.
It's always been. Don't forget, slavery's been a thing since before this nation was founded, and it's been a thing till like early last century.
And do we want to go back to that?
No.
It'll only be a thing with the drones, yeah, because the government will have drones. And the armies, though, all the armies and the people that serve the United Forces and stuff, half of them will be supporting the government, half of them will be supporting the rebellion. Yeah. And then we'll just have to worry about the drones, you know what I'm saying?
Word, we always see the movie where the dude doesn't press the button when he's given the order to press the button.
He doesn't do it because he knows, he's like, this is wrong.
I mean, civil war is never pretty, you know, because you're killing your brothers.
Me having a gun in a civil war, if it happened tomorrow, is unplanned, uneducated, and there needs to be way more thought put into that.
How is that unplanned? That's the most planned and prepared you could be. You have a weapon to protect yourself. A gun, yes. It is. What else do you want to have a tank?
That sounds more planned and prepared to me.
Because now you can actually get one, certain people, but they're definitely not making it so you can't. So they've already restricted that you can't have a tank. So just because you can't have the tank, now they don't want you to have the gun. Like,
well, maybe the army wants their tanks because they use it more. We're not gonna use it.
Bro, there's people that stockpile ammo. I'm sorry, I didn't want to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, sorry.
There's people. Now, there's the thing. We live in New York, so we don't see this on a regular basis every day where it's the normal. But like, you go down south then to other states in the South and the Midwest, it is a normal thing for people to own guns, to go to gun ranges, to shoot on their property. You know, for young kids to be raised shooting guns and learning how to both hunt and protect themselves and their property. You know, you got to remember, in New York, if my house gets robbed, right? And this is the other aspect of it, where it's self-protection, okay? And you say, like, I shouldn't have to have a gun to protect myself against the other guy. But say I get robbed, somebody kicks in my front door. I can pick up the phone, call 911. I'm in an urban area. There could probably be a cop here within 5 minutes, right? So as long as I can hold this guy off for 5 minutes, there's no need for, you know, anything beyond that. Say you live in a much more rural county out in the Midwest. You call the cops, it could be 30 to 40 minutes before they actually get to your property to actually help you. Say somebody kicks at your door with a gun, you know, like, am I supposed to stand there and protect my wife and my kids with a kitchen knife or something else? I would much safer have a gun of some sort to protect my family and my kids from somebody else. And there are plenty of people in the world that want to just kick in your door and take your shit.
Totally. But that's not a tyrannical government. That's just a shitty person.
That's the self-defense aspect of it. You know?
Yeah, and I guess what we're trying to say is that, you know, the tyrannical government is like, we need our guns in case it happens, because, you know, like JB was mentioning, the gun laws that they're trying to pass don't even reflect on the guns that were used in the mass shootings. So it's like, they talk about that, like, yeah, gun control, but we're not reading the fine print. We don't know what they want from it. We just, like, oh, they're doing a good job, you know, and then we're just like, oh, okay, here's my vote, and then they just do whatever the hell they want. And then after they get the information, they're like, oh, okay, now what can we do with it? How do we make money off this, you know? Can we limit it? Like, you know, there's a lot of things that go on, because government or politics is the study of the allocation of power. You know, so how is power?
It's all about power. It's all about power, man.
Yeah, and then we found out that people who have money have the power because they're the ones influencing the politicians, which is why the popular vote doesn't matter in the presidential election, because, you know, we elect the other people to represent us because there's too many of us, and those, you know, electoral votes get counted for the presidents because we're supposedly, you know, electing people who have, you know, a better understanding, you know, like, because
they're gerrymandered and fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, you're electing a person who's supposed to vote a certain way.
Yeah, or like,
but they don't necessarily have to.
Last election, they didn't even vote for who they were supposed to vote for.
Yeah,
they just voted who they wanted to. It's
yeah, that's where you see the system busted. You're not getting the representative vote.
No, because after they get your vote, they go behind closed doors and say, well, what's in it for me? You know, so like, in this new bill, you're gonna, like, you know, allocate this for this, and then I could use that money and funnel it this way for myself. Yeah, why not? If you had the power and everyone else was doing it in the same club as you were in, and they're like, hey, this is how you get money in here. And then why do you think they want to get reelected? Cuomo's going on what? His third term as governor, and he wants to keep running as governor until he dies? Like, what kind of democracy is that?
Fuck Cuomo. You got fucking judges that have life terms. They get to sit there like 100 years old and shit, still passing judgment on people they used to own.
Right.
Yeah,
Come on,
because
bro.
they got the power. They don't want the new guy fucking up everything that they just put into place. They're like, I know better. Oh, it's better with me when I'm in charge, and not when you're in charge. It's like, well, that's like, like symptoms of a dictatorship coming out. It's like how can you decide that you're the only one that knows what's good for the country or good for the state? Like, I know these people. Like, well, times are changing. Change is only constant. So get out of the seat. I don't know, it's like, why do we have these senior citizens reflecting on young Americans' values? That's what I don't get. It's you either adapt or you die, and that's always been the case. People who don't know how to adapt die. The horses got replaced by cars. It's really simple.
Certain things though that I hear, like, I get nervous for, because like you were saying, like, your dad's about to retire, so you want to make sure that he's able to like enjoy his retirement like safely and as long as he possibly can, of course, and they're doing all these like stimuluses. They're just getting money from everywhere they can in order to send out all these unemployment checks to cover unemployment. And that's one of the things where it's like, everybody definitely wants people to be taken care of, but money doesn't grow on trees, like money doesn't just come from nowhere. Like, where are they getting the money from? And certain things, they're pulling stuff from one place and then trying to pay out now. So one of the things was, my mother is a retired teacher, and her pension is, she's retired. She's living off her pension. And they're talking about possibly putting off certain pensions until paying out mid next year in order for them to pull money for the budgets to allocate to unemployment right now.
That's insane.
So we're talking about people that can't go to work right now because they're being told to stay home, are about to be paid with the money that my mother worked her entire career for,
Right.
and it's her money. And now they're saying, oh no, you have to wait till next year to get all of this. We're only going to give you this much to live on until then. We're going to take this and give this to someone else.
But of course,
And that's just one example that I see hitting close to home for me.
Right.
Who knows where else people are getting fucked because they're taking earned money by them in order to pay out now towards unemployment. And that's one of those arguments where people are like, do we reopen or do we stay closed? And it's tough because like money doesn't grow on trees. They're taking it from somewhere. That's why people have to pay attention to what they're doing. Where are they taking this money from?
And it's crazy because obviously, like, we're all well aware that these huge corporations don't pay taxes.
Yeah,
You get tax-free motherfucker. And it's like, how do these companies have billions of dollars yet they don't pay taxes? It's insane. They should totally pay taxes. We're paying taxes. We don't make that much, and we're getting hit for a big chunk of money. They make that much. They can afford to pay the taxes on that.
That's true. But if I'm making all the money and I'm a big boy, I don't want to pay taxes.
I get it, but you could afford to. So, like, at the end of the day, after you're done paying all those taxes, you still got a stupid amount of money that you can work with.
Yes.
You still have more than the guy when it comes.
This is the nature of greed.
just go watch that fucking
It's an issue.
just go watch that Amazon owner, what's his name, Jeff Bezos or whatever.
Yeah.
Some dude does a visual showcase of how much money he has using rice.
Yeah, I saw that.
What? I didn't see that.
Bro,
Dude, it's
when
like
you watch that, you'll understand the difference between what you and I think doesn't matter and what he thinks changes the world. And there's a
what's crazy.
you can understand why.
Somebody I don't know if it was that same guy, but he did an illustration where it's like, Jeff Bezos donated $100 million towards something. It's like, well, yeah, $100 million is a lot of money, but when you consider it next to everything he makes, it's less than pennies for us.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what a dick. He could literally give 50 to 150 times that and still not even notice it was gone. But that would change that fucking foundation's entire trajectory. It could change the world. but he doesn't. You know, so it's like, but that's America. That's capitalism. That's where it's like you can't tell someone what to do with their money, but you can judge them by what they do with their money. And that's what people have to remember, is that you're buying his shit, okay? And giving him more money on that pile that's not going to go towards changing the world. So just remember that when you buy.
Maybe he's doing it afterwards, like how Bill Gates did it. He stayed on the board and he made his money, and then afterwards, when he retired, he became a consultant. You know,
bro. If you look at the number of money, the amount of money he has compared to everybody else, the amount that he could just throw to everybody.
I know what you mean. Maybe he's gonna do it after he retires.
That's the thing you gotta remember. At the end of the day, like, he's not Batman. He's not Robin Hood. He's not turning around and, you know, giving everything back to the world and being some superhero. He's a dick, Scrooge, who's got a fucking room full of cash that he swims in, and then every day he goes and gives the bum a nickel and feels good about himself because everybody's like, oh, look at how generous he is. Nah, bro, that's a cheap, stingy motherfucker who could change the world, but he'd rather sit on all that fucking cash.
I think that's a pretty inaccurate opinion, but okay.
Hey, man. And that's why opinions are what you can do. You judge them by what you see and how you view it. And like when I look at him, I see a cheap motherfucker who could change the world but would rather be rich.
Yeah, I mean, we're all privy to information. It's like, what? I think him and Warren Buffett were like the first two, like, you know, multi-billionaires or whatever to actually come up with the proposal that, like, you know, when we leave, and what do you do all this wealth? And I was like, well, actually, when they pass away, they're giving a lot to like charities, you know, like they made.
That's what I mean, though. Like when you say a lot to charities,
yeah, not enough money to last him multiple lifetimes. Why not now?
Right, and when you say when they give enough a portion of it to charities, when you see that sack of rice, and you look at what you're talking about, he's probably going to give away compared to what he's going to leave to like the next 40 generations or whatever company that he's going to give it to run the world, like. That's where it's like there's a disconnect between what you can do and what you do.
That's true.
Do what you do.
So
stupid.
It's also like Andrew Carnegie's philosophy on how like some people are lions, some people are sheep, and the lions are there to keep the sheep in line and to feed off the sheep, and the lions are the ones who dictate how the sheep should live, and that's essentially big government in a capitalist system.
Yo, if you got a rich guy that gives you like $100, but he's got 100 million, and you got a poor guy that's got an apple, and he splits it with you, like who's more generous? You know what I mean? Like
Poor guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So like
although
that rich guy doesn't have that same generous mentality because of what he's got. You know, like people have to keep the perspective of that. Like, yeah, he gave a bunch of money, but like that's like not even the skin of his apple. You know, it's not even the fucking seed inside.
Yeah, but that's a little unfair, you know, because, like, you know, like, what happens when you give people money that they didn't earn or deserve? They just fucking blow it, you know? It's
not saying, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he should give me the money. I'm not saying, I mean, look,
money?
I would love him to give Jeff Bezos, I would love you to give me that money. But I'm not saying he should give me that money. I'm saying he could put that into all sorts of, like, research for medicines. You know, like, he could fund, like, all of, think about it like this. Hey, listen, we got all these stimulus plans going out to save all of the people that are working, like healthcare workers, and they're getting paid, you know, like, and how are they getting paid, you know, by the government finding money to get them paid and like their companies paying. Where's he to just swoop in and be like, hey, listen, I'm going to pay their salaries for this pandemic? It would be a fucking couple grains of rice off his stack. But he's not there to do that. Like, so when you see the generosity of people that donate money that they're getting a tax write-off on anyway, he donated that little money. How much did he get a tax write-off on for it? Probably almost an equal share. If he might have made money on that shit. He might have made money in the back end of that by donating money. You know, so that's that's an accusation. But a lot of times it happens.
I want to go back to what Johnny was saying, how like people just blow it. Johnny, what happens to that money that's blown? Where's that money going?
The economy.
Back into the economy, right?
That boosts the economy.
Money that's going into someone else's pocket, right? If I'm the average broke person, particularly the average broke person that's worked in the service industry. If I got a ton of money now and I go out to eat at a restaurant, you better believe I'm leaving a nice tip.
No, I get it, and you have every right to do so, but that's not how you accumulate wealth, and that's the point. It's like these people don't know how to manage money, they're mismanaging it, and they're going back to being broke.
Totally.
But now, if you're, but I'm not
for the greater good.
Right, but I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying to give it to the mass public that would treat it like you're saying, which we would blow it. I'm saying, why wouldn't he just take a ton of it and put it into certain researches, like cancer research, like vaccine researches, He could change the world. All of them depend on government grants.
Yes, and it's simple.
Private donations.
Sorry, JB.
That's just my opinion. Like, I get it. Like, look,
yeah,
but again, I also love that we live in capitalistic free America where he gets to choose what he does with his money.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I can judge him on it, but I don't think the government should go and tell him what to do with it. That's the last thing that should ever happen. He's free to do what he wants with his money. That's how it should be.
I think if the government tells me what to do with my money, they got to tell him what to do with his money.
But they're not telling you what to do with your money.
Yes, they are.
How?
You don't pay taxes?
Well,
okay.
I mean,
all right.
That's like a
on the tax side. That's a whole nother.
That's what I'm talking about. He doesn't pay taxes. Fucking pay taxes.
Yes, I mean, he pays taxes at a different bracket.
He doesn't pay any taxes at any bracket.
I agree that there is a fucking fucked up system of how they tax the higher end of corporations. I agree, especially ones that aren't even based in the United States half the time. So, like, I agree. But as far as them telling you what to do with your money, like, income tax and how they tax you is different from them telling you how to spend your money. Like, if they were to come to you, even after the taxes and whatnot, and say, Omar, you have too much money, your neighbors are broke this week, you need to give them half your money. That's pretty much what it would be like if they were to tell him where to put his money, which is wrong.
But it's not because I can't live on half my money. He can live on 1% of his money for the rest of his life.
But that's the difference in tyrannical government versus free America. No matter how much you have, it's not their part to tell you what to do with it. So right now,
America, it's capitalist America, which is what's different.
But this is the difference here. Say my father owns 2 houses, and now they turn around and say, hey, there's a guy that doesn't have a house, you have to give him one of your houses. That's the same as them telling him what to do with the money. They're saying you have too much, you got to give something to them. That's communism.
It is and it isn't, right? It is when you're comparing percentages, but it's not just as simple as percentages, right? It's easy to look at just percentage, but it's like, what does that mean, right? If your father goes back and forth between one house and the other, now that's 50% of what he has is gone, but so much more of it.
Say he's got 10 houses.
Jeff Bezos loses 50% of his wealth. There's still an insane amount of things that he can do with that.
But that's not their place to tell him. It's not. That's the point of it. It doesn't matter how big or how little. It's nobody's place to tell you what to do with your property. The reason we broke away from Britain and became the United States was because they were taxing and telling you what to do with your property. They would, if you had too much, they took it. That was it. And that's why we said, fuck this. We're going to go where nobody can come and tell me what to do with my property. What I own is mine.
When that gap is excessive and it's creating systems where people can't make it, how many small businesses fail not because they're not doing things properly, but because they just can't afford the overhead costs because of a billion little things, and then this massive corporation that makes billions of dollars, that's paying starvation wages, that's putting their employees in really shitty conditions. The guys at the top are making an excessive amount of money where they can afford to continue to oppress, and even if they lost half of it, they can still afford to do a shit ton more. It's a little ridiculous. And the government should step in
and your right
a reasonable amount of taxes on that.
And that's our right as citizens to go and protest and get the government to regulate those companies to give better wages for their people, better conditions. That's what we have right now. Now, the problem is at the tax level, yes, there's a fucked up system up there where it's being exploited. It's totally being exploited by bigger companies. But to tell them what to do with their money is the slippery slope. It's literally saying that we can tell anyone what to do with their property. And that is not what the country was founded on. I think they should address how they tax those big companies for sure.
Right.
I totally agree with that. That's what like the whole Occupy Wall Street was really about, was that those companies and Wall Street, they're not being taxed and regulated properly. They're just exploiting the systems that are in place. So those systems need to be fixed. And I agree with that. But as far as telling someone what to do with the money that they have earned, You can't do that. Now, if somebody earned money in the ill fashion, you know, by exploiting people and whatnot, then there should be definitely some sort of a consequence or fines or whatever you got to do with that. But to just go and tell them, hey, you got all this, you got to put it here. I can't get down with that. Because if I were to be the one that had worked hard and made money and they come and be like, hey, you got to give some to this dude. Like, nah, that's not choice. If I want to and I'm generous, cool. If not, you know, fuck off my land.
Well, like, I'm just thinking, like, you know, out of all the people that were like billionaires, like, you know, and you ask, and like, I guess it's like, I understand that, like, you know, you want people who have more power to take on more responsibility, and then, you know, like, they could help. They have, like, you know, a more obligation because they do have more, so they could give more, but why don't they? Well, it's like, well, maybe it's like really simple. It's like, well, when they were growing up and they were nobody and they didn't have any money, nobody helped them.
Right. And that's how they made it.
And that's how they made it. So,
and
like,
I understand also, rich people are the people that don't give away money.
Systems.
Most of the time, rich people, the people that are rich are the people that don't give away money and donate and charity until they get, like, they're just saving money. You know, they don't spend it on frivolous things. But, you know, at what point, you know, do you have enough where I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I'm gonna judge you for being a cheap bastard if you're not, you know, if you got, that's all I'm saying. That's what I love about America, is that we can't tell you what to do with your money. But I'm not gonna sit down and have a drink with you, you cheap fuck, you know? Like, you can do all this.
Buy your own drink.
Yeah.